My name is Brenda Dobek. I started playing rugby 3 decades ago, 30 years ago. I got involved through a taster session that I played handball at the time, a different sport, and I got involved through rugby. There was a taster session that came up for women's rugby. So I went from playing handball to this taster session with a few of my other teammates, and I was just hooked right from the very start. I grew up in Airedale. I come from a family background. I had 3 brothers that played rugby league. I played handball down at Featherstone, so we're based in Featherstone. And the guy that set up the taster session worked for the Wakefield Council, and so we were based down at Featherstone, and that's where the team grew. There's quite a few girls playing. It was a big struggle to get the support of males mainly. That we used to get the comments that women don't play rugby, women can't play rugby, but obviously we proved them wrong, and then it grew from there, and it grew quite big really. I started playing for a team, Wakefield Panthers, and I was only playing a year, and the coach, Martin Ward, who originally coached the ladies, he had other commitments, so he couldn't do it anymore, so I just took it upon myself to start coaching the team, so I became player coach after that, and we got to a really, really high standard, a good level, down at Featherstone, and we did really good. I had a lot of passion for the game. I took to it instantly. I grew up watching Castleford Rugby League, but from then on I just took to the sport. It was just a sport that I had a lot of passion for, and I just dedicated my life to it. Like now, 30 years on, everything was revolved around rugby league. So I think the reason why we were successful is because my passion sort of rubbed off onto the girls that I used to coach, and yeah, they just started enjoying it as much as I enjoyed it, and we got a lot of success out of it by working hard. But at that time, the way that I got girls involved is just it had a great social side to it. So it wasn't just playing rugby; it was after the training, after the playing on Sunday, it had a great social side to it, and just getting young people and young girls off the streets, just doing something, get involved in a team sport, which I think is great to be involved in a team. Any team. It created a lot of discipline in the girls. You know, there were anything between sort of 16 and it was open age, so it was 16 up to 30, 40 year old, and we had not only young girls but mothers that got involved as well. So it was just a mixture of young and old, and really having a good social time really, and getting some discipline in their life. For 10 years we was unbeaten. There was a lot of competition about, and there was a lot of really good players, like your Bradford. We travelled up to Cumbria a lot. There was a lot of travelling in it, but there was just the passion in the girls. They wanted to win. Losing wasn't an option, and I think going back to myself as a coach, that's what I tried to drive into the girls. It's important. We work hard. We play hard, and then afterwards we enjoy winning afterwards. I think if you want to play at the highest level, obviously you've got to have that passion and that drive, and you sacrifice a lot of things to get to that level. Not everybody has that desire. Not everybody, we had girls that weren't as passionate as me about the game, but we had a good mixture, so it worked really well. I've always been with the Panthers. I've never left the Panthers. So we went from being Featherstone to Wakefield Panthers, back to Featherstone. But I always I stayed coaching and I stayed playing as long as I could play. And then I got asked to. I coached Lancashire, I coached Yorkshire, and then I got asked to coach England to go to the World Cup in 2008. I suppose it was something that I always wanted to do. I wanted to play at the highest level. I wanted to coach at the highest level, and I got an opportunity to do that. We went to the World Cup. We went to Australia in 1996 first as the first ever women's team to do that. And I went as a player, and we had 3 tests, and we won 2 out of the 3 tests. So the 3rd test we won, so we came away winning all the tests. But my opportunity to coach England in the World Cup in 2008, obviously it was advertised. I was passionate about it. I wanted to do it. I went for an interview. I had a little bit of a reputation about coaching Wakefield and coaching to a good standard. So I set my sights high and I thought, right, I'm going to go and see if I can get this job coaching England. And I went and I got the job and never looked back, really. My first tour was 1996. We played 3 tests against Australians. So obviously I played in all the 3 tests there. And then we went to New Zealand 2 years later. And I was asked to do player assistant coach to Jackie Sheldon. Jackie Sheldon was the head coach at the time. But after New Zealand, we had a World Cup over here. We had in England. We played New Zealand and we played Australia, and I was captain of that team at the time. We played. We beat Australia. We lost to New Zealand in the final game, which was very disappointing. And then after that, we went to Australia again in 2002. I was captain again, and we were successful again. I can't remember exactly how many games we played, but I think we won more games than we lost out there. My favourite memory, and it sticks with me now, and when I think about it, I get shivers thinking about it. The first time we went to Australia in 1996. We played Australia 3 times. We lost the first test, we won the second test, and then we won the third test by 2 points. So we came away series winner. We went to Australia with no expectations. Nobody thought we'd beat them. Australia, fantastic nation in any sport, not just rugby league, but any sport. So to come away beating the Australians on their own ground, in their backyard, was absolutely amazing. Growing up in a rugby family, I had 2 brothers that played at Batley, one played at Halifax. I played rugby when I was out on the streets. I was a bit of a tomboy at the time. I followed Castleford Rugby League, where you used to go down to Wembley. My dad used to take us down to Wembley. And so, yeah, my parents were really proud of what I achieved, supported me all the way. I coached and played for Yorkshire at the same time, so I was player head coach. We used to have tests Yorkshire, Lancashire, and I played and coached Yorkshire, and we beat Lancashire. And then about 5 years later, I was asked to coach Lancashire, and we beat Yorkshire. So I had success on both sides of the Pennines, really, coaching. Going back 3 decades, it was really difficult. We had to get over lots of obstacles to push for women to play the game. We struggled with venues and we struggled with finance. We had to do lots of fundraising. We didn't get any support from anybody, not rugby league clubs like they have today. Super League clubs support the women's game. But we didn't have any of that, so it was just going back to, again, saying like it's the passion that you've got for the game to drive it forward, to not be knocked down. If you get knocked down, get back up and just keep striving ahead. And just, obviously, it's got to a stage now where I think going back, not only myself, but quite a lot of people have got it to this level, to the level it's at these days, just by persevering, just by saying, women can and do and will play rugby league. We had several venues when I played for Wakefield and coached Wakefield, but one venue was down at Castleford Rugby Union ground, and obviously it was very, very male-dominated down there. And we had to share the changing rooms. We had to share the changing rooms with the referee. We had to share the bath with the referee, not a shower, a bath. So it was getting in and out of the dirty water after the referee, or sometimes, I'm not saying with the referee, but it was just, you had to share. The changing rooms were the biggest obstacle, I think, the biggest issue that we had. We really struggled to get venues with decent facilities for females. The first time we went to Australia, we had to raise £1,000, and back in 1996, £1,000 were a lot more than it is these days. So, just individual fundraising, getting money from anywhere really, just begging for money really, basically. A lot of Super League clubs have taken the women under the wing, and they're supporting the women. They're backing them financially. The venues, I'm Castleford, for example, they play all their home games on the pitch, on the main pitch. And I know a lot of other teams, Wigan, St Helens, Warrington, they're all doing exactly the same. And I think that's the level it's got to at the minute. I think it's got to a stage now where, because of the standard of the women's game, standard of the players, standard of everything that's involved, I think it should be a paid position, a paid sport, just like the football and the women is, football and the Rugby League are, Rugby Union, sorry. Maybe not on a full-time basis, but just starting off on a semi-professional basis. Because I know the Australian women and the New Zealand women, they get paid for playing. Some on a full-time basis, some on a part-time basis. So I think if we're going to compete against these teams, these nations, then that's what we've got to, the level that we've got to get to. I think a lot of supporters bring funding into the club, obviously, but I think you've got to look at like how the Super League teams survive on sponsorship from companies, sports foundations, putting money into the women's game as well. Rugby League in Castleford and Airedale has been a massive influence on the whole town. Going back to when I lived in this area, there wasn't a lot to do other than just like go out on the streets but now I think Castleford being as successful as it is, it's getting the support down there. A lot of people that live in the local area are supporting, and they've got something to aim for, something to occupy the time. Most of the population of Airedale and Castleford go watch Rugby League, so it's just that's how good and how big it is for the two areas.